My name is Benny Chris Onyibe and welcome to Say Prayer Ministries. I hope you had an amazing week. I did. So I'm just going to recap how the book of Numbers ended. Do you guys remember that it ended in chapter 36 verse 13, and there you see the children of Israel now geographically and spiritually at the point or at a place to take hold of the promised land, and it was such a beautiful journey. The book of Deuteronomy is a continuation from that, and it is extremely emotional, even more so for Moses, because in the book of Deuteronomy you see him parting with the children of Israel, guys. So he has been leading the Israelites for about 40 years now. And remember in the previous book where because of Moses' disobedience, God had already told Moses that you're not going to see the promised land. And he's at this point like giving like his final address to the children of Israel that, see, I have been here, we've been here for 40 years, and your fathers were rebels and you were really stressed God out. Not them, but like telling them what their fathers did to make them be on the land for 40 years, but reminding them of the victories God helped them win, the instructions they obeyed that led them to victory, and even the instructions that they did not obey that, caused the wrath of God. Do you remember like when you were in secondary school and you were in your high school, and you were about to transition into university? Do you remember how emotional it was for you? How you had to say bye to some of your friends? How you remember the ups and the downs that you went through in the course of however long your high school was, 6 years, 5 years, whatever. You remember the ups and the downs you went through and how you overcame them, and now you're about to go to a higher phase. Like, does it not cause some level of emotion that, wow, this is ending? This is not like, it's not foreign to the children of Israel or to Moses in particular, because that's what they are going through in Deuteronomy. And it's even more so emotional for Moses because Moses is not following them into the promised land. So you can see him really talking to them, advising them. That's the children now, the children of Israel, telling them what their fathers did that prevented them from entering the land, telling them what happened that even prevented him from entering the land, and blaming their fathers, telling the children that because of their fathers he's not entering. That you could see that he was hurt about the fact that he was not entering the promised land. But to whom much is given, much is expected. In the book of Deuteronomy you see Moses telling the children of Israel that if you keep all these instructions and you follow all these laws, you will be righteous. And comparing this to what Jesus later came to do is so beautiful, because now there are no 10 statutes, 10 commandments or statutes or whatever that we are meant to read. Okay, thou shalt not kill. Okay, I didn't kill 2 days ago, I've not killed this year. So then when you get to heaven, you'll be like, phew, God, first of all, thank me for all the things that I did and did not do that warranted my position here. So like, that's not the case. You see Moses giving his farewell address, telling the children how they got to that point, and just really sharing with them the laws that were given to him on Mount Sinai. Sinai. Is this Sinai or Sinai? But yeah, you see Moses telling the children of Israel that these are the laws that were given to us, or that were given to me on the Mount of Sinai, and I am giving them back to you. So it's like it's like the reiteration of a lot of those laws. That is why Deuteronomy actually means second law. So it's like, yeah, it's flows, yeah. So it's just amazing how you could see Moses was hurt. He was hurt because they are now all the highs and the lows that they have endured and gone through. It's now about to come to an end. So he has to really talk to them and advise them, tell them the nature of God, convey to them the heart of God. And you see him doing this despite the fact that he knows he's not going to see the same land because of these same people that he is giving this final address to. So but like, I really admired Moses in this part of the Bible, because you could see that he was hurt, but he did not let that prevent him from, number one, advising Joshua, encouraging Joshua, that's the person that was succeeding him, and telling Joshua, like, God is going to be with you. He has been with me. He has seen me through this leadership period. He is going to do the same for you. You see him do this despite the fact that he knows that he's not going to see what these people are going to. Like, he did not let the hurt of the last phase of their lives affect the future phase of the lives of the children of Israel. In chapter 4 verse 34, you see how the selection of God's selection of the Israelites as his people and of Moses as the leader of his people is not because they were like the holiest. Moses murdered someone. Do you remember how the story started? If you've been following, you will know. Like, they were not the children of Israel were like, they were so imperfect. Like, so these were not like because they were so holy and righteous. No, it was because of God's purposes, God's plan. Because God had already foreseen that I want the Messiah to come out of these people. Now you see God saying, I love the children of Israel. Yes, love in the sense of, oh, love because he created them, yes. But most of the time, the word love and the word hate used in the Bible in a number of contexts doesn't necessarily mean the emotional part of love, but in a context of obligation or commitment. Meaning, I have a commitment to Jacob, but I do not have a commitment to Esau. In chapter 4, verse 24, you see Moses saying that, for the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. Now, the original Hebrew word for that word jealous is zealous, meaning that God is compassionate and about his people, and his decisions are as a result of his intense commitment and love for them. Now, in chapter 9 verse 5, you see how Moses emphasizes to the children of Israel that it is not your righteousness that will bring you victory, but it is God's promise to your fathers and your forefathers that's going to bring you victory. So it's like God is loyal and committed to his promises. Moses reminds the children of Israel that, see, you obviously know that your fathers were here for 40, like this journey had been extended to 40 years because of the sins of your fathers, and he reminds them that, see, despite this happened, you need to know that God is a loving God, and he connected what happened to what a father would do when their children are constantly rebellious, and how you would definitely scold your children and punish them, but God corrects in love, or scolds in love, because despite that they were in the wilderness for 40 years, God provided for them. God protected them. They won battles. They had places to sleep. They had lights. They had everything they needed. So far as they asked, they got it. Even before asking, they were consistently being taken care of by God. Chapter 17 to 19 talks about prophets, all right? And reading this part of the Bible just reminded me of what later happened, how when Jesus came and left, he put the Holy Spirit in us. So as at then, especially in this part of the Bible, in order to communicate with God, it was only prophets that could do this. Like, they were sanctified and made holy for that purpose, to hear God and communicate God's heart or God's instructions to the children of Israel. But now you don't need a prophet to hear God for you. Like, it's so beautiful what Jesus did, because now when Jesus died and resurrected, like, he left the Spirit of God, and anyone who believes has him in their hearts, and that means you hear God personally. Now, in chapter 19, verse 21, you see the concept of lex talionis. Basically, that is like an eye for an eye, if a leg for a leg, a hand for a hand, and all of that. Let me explain that within context for you. So, that concept of lex talionis was given because these were like fundamentally sinful people. Because of Adam has committed the sin and sin had entered the world, and Jesus has not yet come in human form. So it's like at this point the people were fundamentally sinful, so they did everything that they were not supposed to do. The punishment they would normally give without this law was beyond the crime or the sin that was committed. So laws had to be made to manage that. Like, don't, if somebody like plucks your eye, don't now go and kill them. Like, let the consequence of their action be on the same level with the wrong that they did. A lot of the laws that were given, a lot of the laws that Moses was giving them in the book of Deuteronomy was not because like God like tolerated some of these practices, but these were like laws that were given to manage their extremism in a more humane way. In chapter 32 verse 50, you see God informing Moses of his impending death. So Moses didn't like just die like he knew he was going to die, because God told him. And at this point he has fulfilled his purpose and everything that he had come to do. And you see him in verse 33 like giving his final blessings, blessing the Israelites for the final time. And he dies in verse 34, guys. He died at the age of 120, and it was recorded in chapter 7 that his eyes were not weak and his vitality had not left him. So he did not die a weak man. He died just because his purpose had finished, okay? And in chapter 34 verse 10, it was also recorded that no prophet had arisen again in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. Guys, Moses died in obedience because God instructed him to go to a mount, God instructed him to go to a mountain, and he got there and he saw the promised land. He just didn't enter, but he saw the promised land, and it was on that mountain that he died. And it was so emotional, but such a beautiful story. Moses did not die out of old age. Moses died at the end of his assignment. So you need to always be in line with God's purpose for your life, and you need to ensure that you're entering a new phase with grace. So you saw how Moses was seen in the New Testament with the transfigured Jesus on the promised land. So the mercy and the love of God knows no bounds, guys. And I want to use this book of the Bible to encourage each and every one of us to move to next phases of our lives with purpose in mind, to ensure that we are always in the purpose of God for our lives, okay? And more importantly, to ensure that no matter the transition that God permits us to make in life, we ensure that we do it with grace like Moses did. I love you all. Please share this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And I would love to see you around this time next week. Till then, stay safe and stay blessed. God loves you.